Hey everyone, my name is Katrina. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I'm doing a part two series on newborn breastfeeding tips. So I hope you found the part one series pretty helpful. This is just going to be a continuation of just some common questions that I get from my clients who are in the very early postpartum season, just wanting to optimize their breastfeeding experience for their newborns. So we will cover how long to feed slash when to feed. Do I need to feed on both breasts? How do I manage gassy babies or babies that are spitting up a lot? And should I wake up babies at nighttime for feeds? So um, the first question we'll talk about is how long do I feed the babies for? So you want to make sure that you're feeding the babies for how long they actually want to. So in the beginning, babies can be really sleepy, so they're not going to feed as fast as they will compared to like maybe a couple weeks down the line. So again, they're very sleepy. So they're still also learning how to use the right muscles. They haven't used their jaw muscles ever before. They just came out of the womb. So they're sleepy. They never used the breastfeeding muscles before. So it's going to take them some time. It's going to take them about 30, maybe 30 to 40 minutes to feed because they need to learn how to latch, how to suck, how to swallow, and how to breathe. So in general, you just want to keep feeding them until they stop feeding, because babies will tell you when they're done. So in general, to answer this question, how long do I feed the babies? Around 30 to 40 minutes. After a few weeks, after they, if they don't have problems like tongue tie or lip tie or anything like that, they may decrease the time to as fast as 5 to 20 minutes, depending on the baby. In general, it's also really important to feed on demand. And you just want to look for signs for when the baby might be hungry. So you don't want to wait until they're crying. But if you see them licking their lips, if you see them when they're taking a nap that their eyelids are kind of moving or that they're starting to move their arms and their legs, that may indicate that they might be hungry. So just offer the breast, offer some milk, and if they start to feed, that's the cue that you know that they are hungry and that's time for another meal. Now, it's really important that you recognize that the baby's stomachs are really small when they are newborn. So they can probably only handle a very little amount of milk. So this is why it's really important to feed them very often. So as much as every 2 to 3 hours. Now, if we're going about like the evening times, you might be able to stretch that out a little bit more. But in general, during the daytime, you want to try to feed them every 2 to 3 hours. You never want to let them just nap for 4, 5, 6 hours during the day. You just want to make sure that you're feeding them, waking them up every few hours. And that's also going to be really important for building up your milk supply. Because if you just don't feed, if you have the baby continue sleeping, the breast may think, I don't need to produce any milk because there's nothing emptying out of it. So it's really important that in the very beginning stages of newborns that you are trying to wake them up or recognize those cues of when they're hungry. So you're feeding them every 2 to 3 hours. Do I need to feed on both breasts? So I would say the answer to this question is it depends. So because babies can be really sleepy, they might fall asleep when they feed on the first breast. So let's say you have breast A and B. You're feeding them on breast A and they might fall asleep. And if that happens, I highly recommend trying to feed them on breast B and seeing if they try to feed, because by just changing up the positions, they might wake up. And it could be because they're so sleepy that they're not staying awake to feed. So just because, they're feeding and they fall asleep doesn't mean that they're full. So just offer the second breast, see what happens. If you offer the second breast and they're still not feeding, then you can assume that the baby is done. Now, for the next time that you feed, maybe the feed after 2 hours, try to feed them on that breast B. So the breast that you didn't feed from, just because that breast is probably gonna be more full, and you want to try to empty that a little bit just so you don't get any like too much engorgement or feeling heaviness or firmness in the breast. Gassy babies. So for gassy babies, this is really common for newborns. And it's because their muscles and their digestive system, they're just not built in yet. They're very rudimentary, they're very basic, foundational. They haven't used their digestive system muscles ever. So the gas that can be happening can actually be due to taking air in also when they're crying or swallowing, or maybe there's some milk bubbles in any formula or any milk that you're feeding with bottle feeding. So know that having gas is a really common thing in the newborn stage, and it isn't really as common as they get older. Because as they get older, their digestive system matures and they just know how to do things better because they've done it, they've practiced, they know what to do. Pooping also, as a side note, may be very difficult for them in the beginning. And it's because, again, they don't have those colon muscles, those digestive system muscles to help poop. So you might see that they might have to strain or they might have to push a lot or they look really uncomfortable. Some tips to kind of help with the gas and just helping them poop are doing like a tummy massage, doing leg bicycles. So if they're laying on their back, you're just moving their legs back and forth, or even just bringing both knees to their chest just to help kind of open up and massage that area. It might help stimulate a bowel movement as well. So what to do if the baby is spitting up? So again, just like the gassing, just like having difficulty pooping, the muscles in the digestive system aren't built in yet. So they're very basic, very rudimentary. So it's very common for like stuff to come up and you might see them like spitting out. And if you're seeing that a lot, like let's say you feed them and you lay them back down on their back and they start spitting up, just try to keep them upright for at least a few minutes because it takes some time for their digestive system to kind of know what to do. You can also try burping them. So the burping can also, you can think of it as like a vibration, some type of stimulation to help things, the food and the milk propagate downwards. So nighttime feeds are also really important. So you want to do nighttime feeds. You just want to make sure the babies aren't sleeping the whole night. So 8, 12 hours. You want to try to be feeding them at least 2 to 3 hours and waking them up. Again, they're going to be really sleepy, so they might not wake up on their own. So night feeds are really important. Don't neglect them. Very important. All right, so you have more questions, please let me know in the comments. You can drop them in the comments and I might do another like part 3 on newborn breastfeeding tips. You can also feel free to reach out to me by email if you have any questions. Follow me on Instagram and check out my website. I also do have some blog posts on just different tips to help with breastfeeding. So if you found this helpful, please like, share, subscribe, and just ask any questions you have in the comments, and I'll be really glad to answer them. Thank you.